3, go.
Good afternoon and welcome to the New South Wales State Library Hackathon. Here today we start with a story, and it's the story of the OpenGov data hacker. Our story begins with you, the happy hacker, heading out to join the OpenGov data hackathon to play with some open data. You arrive at the hackerspace with such enthusiasm and announce, "I have a great idea." You browse the OpenGov datasets and you think, "Oh wow, there are so many. I feel like I'm running around in circles." And then all of a sudden you find yourself holed up in a corner with tears streaming down your face, and you realize that you're going to have to understand the connections in all the data sets in order to produce the app you want. But you don't give up because you're a hacker. Then you think, "But I just wanted to be creative. I just wanted to help. Now I really don't know where to start." Hi, my name is Amy Maria Forstrom and I'm part of Team Penguin. My other member is Phil Pereira, who is taking the video from me now. So we came to the OpenGov data hackathon, and I guess what we were really interested in was having a look at the World War I photos. The breadth of the data sets is quite phenomenal. And we thought that initially we'd like to do a bit of a sentiment analysis on the World War I diaries that the New South Wales State Library has taken so long to transcribe. So we were looking at that and we thought, okay, well, what can we get from that and how can we show the feelings of war through that? And then Louise Danoon, who is the wonderful caretaker of today's event, suggested to us that we did the analysis of the diaries and then also have a look at the analysis of the newspaper so we could see the sentiment between soldiers' writings home, which were personal, and their writings to officials. And we could see the difference in the languages and the sentiment. This was great, we thought, and then we started looking at the data sets, and they're so disparate. We've got XML, we've got CSV, we've got JSON, we had Flickr sets. How do we start dealing with this? And the problem that we faced is technology. But this isn't an unknown problem. This is a very common problem. We're moving into a world of big data, and all of a sudden the big buzzword and all the big things are running around all the amounts of data that we have swimming around us. And this is fantastic. We have more access to data now than we ever had in the history of humanity. However, we still have these finite brains, so we can't make all the correlations and connections that we really need to with the current data sets. And the limiting factor that we have is our current databases. If you have a look at a SQL database, something like MySQL or MS SQL, you have to understand those data sets and you have to understand that schema in order to be able to create the queries and the joins to get the meaningful connections. Now, when you're playing in a world of big data, where data is being created every second, and you don't know and you won't ever know all the types of data that are being created, you can't know all the fields and you can't know all the areas in the data. So what we decided to do was, rather than come up with an application, we decided to create a tool set and to, in some ways, show a technology prototype to the OpenGov hack people to say, "Hey, check this out. Maybe if we had some tool sets like this, it could not just help hackers, but also research as well." Our solution was to use Neo4j. Neo4j is a new graphing database. Graphing database is very, very different to a SQL query database, because what a graphing database does is it takes in the disparate sets of information and tries to create the correlations between those data sets as a baseline for you. So initially what we've done is take the World War I diary set and the World War I map set from New South Wales State Library, and also the Adoptive Soldier photo digitisation from the State Library of Western Australia. You can see here what Neo4j has already started to do for us without having to connect any of the dots is connect together, start to see the connections of the underlying data. Now you can see over here, these are all our labels and our field sets that have been picked up from us. So once again, we haven't had to define these. These have been discovered in the data sets. And as you can see, what we start to do is we start to swim between the data. Now this is only a rough cut, and as we've said, this is a prototype. So what we've done is we've created a Docker image of Neo4j, and we've also created a bunch of ciphers. So what we've had to do for Neo4j is actually take the XML and the JSON and CSV files and convert them into ciphers, which is what Neo4j will understand. These are only 3 data sets. Now, can you imagine the potential if we could pull in all of the data sets for World War I? The potential here is twofold. One is the potential for hackers. So next year, instead of having to come for World War I data sets and try to go through 12 different data sets in 10 different formats, they can come to one URL, they can access this site, and from here they'll be able to run some queries and access that data in a JSON format that they can then consume in a Angular JavaScript or a mobile application or a website. The other great potential is for research. So at a building like the New South Wales State Library, a lot of research is done here, a lot of students come here, and also general professors. So what we could do with this as well is provide a way that all of a sudden the qualitative researcher, and having been a qualitative researcher, I can tell you there's many hours that you spend copying and pasting on spreadsheets just trying to decipher what the sentiment of that information is. With this way, what we can do here is we can actually start to pull in our data sets and we can start to enable the technology to create those basic connections for us, which means that the underlying connections are set there, and we then have the potential to use our higher levels to sit there and make those deeper connections. So instead of having your poor qualitative researchers sitting in the corner copying and pasting, they're actually able to use the skill sets of the research that they've been studying for the past 3 years and help you out with making those deeper correlations and relationships. So we've got our Docker file up on GitHub. We invite you to all go and play. We will be adding to it and growing to it because, of course, there's only so much you can do in 2 days. But hopefully this shows you and shows others the potential of just what graphing databases can do for us in big data and how to really take the potential of the correlations of the information that we find ourselves with right now. We really need to be looking at new ways of technology to help assist us to make meaningful relationships.